All right, sound like guys. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. There you go, bud. All right, so I'm gonna put the Nearpod code in the chat for us, and we are head on over Nearpod. I can actually put the link in the chat as well.
The batteries are out.
Batteries out?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh,
Bad.
that's the link, and here is the Nearpod code if you're already at Nearpod. Do you want to put in the code?
Daddy.
Hmm?
Can you make orange juice?
Can I make orange juice? Come on, bud. All right, guys, I'm going to share my screen as well for those people who may not be able to see. And as you guys can remember, last class I kind of talked about, well, I guess up until this point, we've talked about, am I breaking up for you guys? It looks like I'm coming slow. Thumbs up, guys can hear me, okay?
You're breaking up a little bit.
I'm breaking up. Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now? Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so as you guys remember, we've kind of talked about budgeting up until this point and creating a budget. We talked about the importance of budgeting. And last class, we talked about tools for budgeting, right? Different apps that exist now for budgeting. And you guys kind of researched some apps and determined which apps were best for you or what apps you like the most to do budgeting. So we're going to kind of expand our financial talk a little bit and start talking about credit. All right, and start talking about credit. So today's conversation is going to be about credit and what that means and how it applies to you guys. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. So welcome guys. Still waiting on a couple of you guys to make it over to Nearpod. So if you guys can head on over to Nearpod, that would be great. Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Mr. Kamara, thank you.
Question in the chat.
Say it again.
Ask a question in the chat.
I can hear you. I apologize. Can you say that one more time? Oh, credit. We're talking about credit. So we're talking about credit in general, not credit cards. We will talk about credit cards soon, but not credit cards today. So we're going to be talking about credit in general, and credit report versus credit score and what those two things are. And we'll get to credit cards and how they apply to you guys as teenagers in a couple weeks, or not in a couple weeks, but maybe next month actually. So our next conversation is going to build upon this credit talk that we're going to talk about. All right. So if you guys can make your way on over to Nearpod, Yusuf, Muhammad, Ajibola. Thank you, Muhammad and Yusuf. Gotcha. Ajibola, if you can make it on over to Nearpod. Appreciate that. All right. And we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you guys for being here. Make sure your cameras are on if they're not on. And stay muted until I call upon you to do some reading. I am going to ask you guys to do some reading today. We're going to try to take turns reading today. All right. As always, guys, during the first and last 10 minutes of class of our session here, try to make sure you're in front of the computer. If you need to step away, I completely understand to do whatever you need to do. Be prepared to share your thoughts, questions you may have, and make sure you're kind of seated in a good position where you can get some work done today. All right. So as always, today's agenda from 3 to 3:20, we do our fitness challenge. From 3, I gave you guys a short break, and then now we're getting started a little bit late, just because we started a little bit late. So we're going to talk about your credit history. We'll have a break, and then we'll get into our final discussion for the day. So timeline that's upcoming. So today we'll talk about your credit history. January 10th, we'll talk about why your credit score matters. The class after that, we'll talk about teenagers and credit cards, Mr. Mustafa, as you were alluding to. And then we'll get into why should you invest, and then we'll get into what's a stock and actually investing and doing some investing. All right. And I'll tell you guys what you're going to need from your parents, because when we get into the investment portion, you're actually going to need to get some information from your parents, and we're going to have to get you guys set up with an investment account, and we'll talk about that. So today's objective, let me have somebody read this for us. Can Umar, can you read this for us, please?
Objective of the day. Students will be able to enumerate the components of a credit card and how long each data type is obtained. Understand which people organizations may review your credit report and why. And lastly, explain the key components of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and how it impacts lenders and borrowers.
And I'm sure you guys don't quite understand everything that I'm talking about, but you will as we kind of go along today. All right. So just a quick do now, and I want to get your idea. I want to get some thoughts from you guys. So if someone you did not know, right? Imagine somebody you kind of knew them, but you didn't know them very well. You just met them, wanted to borrow some money from you. What would you want to learn about that person before you decide and why? All right. It's an open-ended question. I want you guys to think about that for a second. I'm going to call upon you guys to ask what your answer is. Again, if someone you did not really know wanted to borrow money, what would you want to learn about them before deciding? And why would you want to know that thing? So first, I'm going to come to Yusuf. Yusuf, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell me your thoughts on this.
No.
You said you would not.
No, I wouldn't.
At all. There's nothing that would help you from determining if you would.
For a good cause, maybe.
Okay, for a good cause. All right. So does it change if it's somebody you kind of know?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say it's somebody you kind of know. Is there anything that would you just lend it to them because you kind of know them, or is there something that you would need to get from them first?
If they owe me money, they will have to pay that back before I let them borrow any more money.
Okay. So if you owe me money already, I'm not going to let you borrow any more money until you pay me what you've already owed me. Okay. So that's a good point. I like that. Umar, what do you think?
I think I would try to see their what they usually do when you borrow money from them, or when you borrow money from them, like if they usually pay it back or not.
Okay, so you want to know if they're trustworthy, if they borrowed money from other people before, can I trust that they're going to pay it back to me because they've done it to other people? Okay, that's fair. Mr. Kamara, what do you think?
I would, if I was giving to them, the first thing I would want to know is basically what they're using the money for.
Okay, so you're more concerned about what do you really need? Is it? And I guess this goes back to our topic about budgeting, about need versus want. Is it a need or is it a want? Right? Would that impact you more if it's a need versus a want?
I guess so, but not if it's a want. It depends on how important I feel the want is. And if it's a need, then I guess I would give it to them.
Okay, so fair. So if it's a need, you would give them the money. If it's a want, I guess it's up to you to determine how big of a want is it? Is it something that you deem is important or not important? All right, cool. And Mr. Mustafa, what are your thoughts?
I want to know what kind of job they work at, so I want to know if they can actually pay me back or not.
Okay, good. So you want to know if they have money coming in. I like that. So you're like, okay, I'll give them the money, but I need to make sure that you actually have money coming in, because if I come asking you for my money in a month from now, you can't tell me, hey, I don't have any money, I don't have a job. Because then, well, if you don't have a job, then you're not going to be able to pay me back, right? All right, very good. Najibullah, last person. What are your thoughts, Najibullah?
Well, first, I'd probably want to know more about their spending history,
Nice.
what they've spent it on, what decisions they've made, and also the results of it. Then I'd probably also just kind of like to know about their background. Are they a respectable person? Do they have a good reputation? Are they someone I could trust with my money?
Nice. So you guys are absolutely right? All of you guys have said some really important things there, right? I guess, Muhammad, I haven't really asked you. Do you have any different thoughts, Muhammad?
I did have some. For me, what I would do is I'd first if it was in need, like say if it was like toilet paper or like I was in a college dorm and one of the neighbors needed like toilet paper or something and they didn't have money and they said that they would pay me back. Uh, I would I would I would lend them the money, but then
Okay.
I'd also ask for a receipt to make sure that I would ask for like a picture of the receipt to make sure they actually spent the money on what it was intended to be spent on.
I like that. Okay. So that's a great point, right? So that is actually something that happens a lot, and we'll kind of get into that. All of you guys have said some really good things, and basically you guys have answered the question of how credit works in this country, right? The things that you need to prove and things that you need to show, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along here. But great job, guys. All very important factors and some things that you guys want. So some of the essential questions that we're going to be answering today, or we're going to be thinking about answering today, is number one, what is a credit report and why does your credit report matter? So it's different from what Mr. Mustafa said a second ago with credit score. It's a very different thing. There's two different things, right? What is a credit report and why does your credit report matter? And number two, what are the main components of a credit report? So what are these things that are on your credit report, or why do they matter? And then lastly, why should you review your credit report annually and how do you access it? All right, so why you should review your credit report and how do you access that thing? All right, so very important question. So first and foremost, we're going to watch this quick video. Let me see what I want to do here. They changed the rules. All right, so all right, guys, so you guys are going to watch the video. I'm going to play the video for you guys, and then you guys are going to answer the questions on your device. So I'm going to play the video for you guys on Zoom. I want you guys to watch. Actually, no. I'm going to have you guys play the video because it's going to be hard to hear if I play it. All right, so I'm going to play the video for you, or you guys are going to play the video and answer the questions, you guys. So go ahead and hit play as soon as you guys are ready.
Your credit report is extremely important because all the information on it is what drives your credit score. So what's involved there? Your credit report is basically a consolidation of your history and track record of paying bills over the last 7 to 10 years. It shows open accounts, closed accounts, were you late on a bill, were you not late, all kinds of information. And that information is then used to create your credit score, which lenders will use to evaluate what types of terms you can get on different types of products, whether it's mortgages or credit cards. Even insurance and employment may be impacted by your credit report and the items that are on there. Everybody watching this needs to get a copy of their credit report at least once a year. And the reason I say that is because studies show.
So he said everybody should get their credit report. How often? How often should you be trying to get your credit report, guys? Answer that question as soon as you get to it. Very good. Waiting on the last two guys, last two people.
I'm not at the questions.
Okay, no problem. A second. All right, very good. All right, very good. Awesome, guys. So yeah, absolutely, right? So you should be getting your credit report every year, at least once a year. You should be reviewing your credit report. We'll talk about the reasons why here in a second. But let's go ahead and finish watching this video.
Studies show that about 30 to 40% of all credit reports have at least one serious error on them. So your credit report and your score may be impacted, and you would have no way of knowing about it. The other reason it's so important to get a copy of your credit report is because identity theft is a growing issue where someone's taking your personal information and opening up charge cards or buying items using your identity. And so if I had an account right now in your name and I was making charges, but the statements were coming to my address and not to your address, you would have no way of knowing that, but it would be on your credit report. So what I'm going to tell everybody that's watching to do is to get a free copy of their credit report. And to give you a little background, there are three big agencies. There's a lot of them, but there are three big credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And you can go and get a free copy of your credit report on all three of those bureaus. The website you want to go to, www.annualcreditreport.com. That's the best place to go to get a free copy of your report. Now, let me tell you what's free and what's not free, because there's a lot of confusion around that. The actual report with all the information is free. If you want the number score, you usually have to pay for it, and that's separate. Basically, that's how they make their money. And it costs between $5 and $10 on each of those bureaus. But if you don't want to pay for your score, at the very least, get a copy of your credit report on all the bureaus, read through them, and work to get any errors corrected, because that could be impacting you significantly and costing you a lot of money.
So very good, guys. Since you turn 18, you should probably get a copy of your credit report since you turn 18 to figure out what's on that credit report. And a lot of times, and I'll tell you the honest truth. So my cousin, when she turned 20, somewhere around 24 or so, she was trying to purchase a house, and she had no clue what was on her credit. No clue at all. You could never pull her report. What she found out was that her parents had opened up a bunch of credit accounts in her name as she was growing up. So they opened up a credit account in her name. They opened up a cable bill in her name, and all of them they messed up. So they had ruined her credit before she even knew about it. That's very sad. It's not a typical thing that happens, but I say that to say you want to, whenever, as soon as you can, when you turn 18, to get a copy of your credit report.
Brother, I can't hear you.
Oh, I was saying that, Yusuf, can you read number 1 for us and answer that question?
What is the connection between a credit report and a credit score?
What do you think?
The information on your credit report leads to what your credit score is.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So your credit report is the information that's on there about how well you pay people back, how much you make, how much you borrowed, all of the things you guys talked about earlier when we did our Do Now, about if you wanted to borrow somebody credit or if you wanted to borrow somebody some money, what are some things you would know? All of those things can be found on your credit report, and that credit report is what helps dictate your score. All right, and it's not just the credit report itself. There's a couple other factors that go into what your credit score is, which is kind of crazy, right? But like where you live is a big factor. Your actual physical address actually does impact your credit score. If you live in a more well-off area, it impacts your credit score a little bit higher. If you live in an area that they consider less, I guess, lower income area, then it impacts your credit score in a negative way as well. And that also dictates how lenders view you and whether they see you as somebody they can borrow money to or not borrow money to based on your address and some other things. So very good, Yusuf. Thank you. Muhammad, number 2, can you read number 2 for us and answer that for us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You're watching. That's in a way. How long do financial records remain on your credit report?
Yeah, he said it. I'm not sure if you caught it or not.
I didn't catch that. No.
Okay. So financial records remain, anything that you do remains on your credit report for 7 to 10 years. For 7 to 10 years. All right. So if you do something today, let's say you miss a bill, you miss a payment on your account, right? That's going to stay on your credit report between now and 2028. or 2027, right? Going into 2028. All right, it'll come off your credit report after 7 years, and some items. Say it again.
Oh, nothing.
Oh, and some items will remain on there for up to 10 years. So it just depends. So 7 to 10 years is how long something remains on your account. So even if you were to mess up now, let's say you were to mess up now when you're 18 years old, you know that by the time you turn 25, that mess up will be off your credit report, and your credit history will be back to good or normal again. All right. Number 3, Umar, can you read number 3 for us?
Yes.
Mhm.
So
What is some of the information you expect to find on credit report? You guys said it earlier. Give me a couple pieces.
Like you said, some of the information you find in the credit report.
Yep.
Bills and
good.
where you live.
Good. Your address. Your I'm sorry.
But also your loans and your loans and debt.
Good. You said your loan. Yeah, your loans and your debt. Absolutely right. So the things that the money you borrowed and how much you owe would also be on your credit report.
You're a liar.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Number 4, Mr. Kamaro. Can you read number 4 for us?
List 2 reasons explaining why it's important to request your 3 credit reports and review them regularly.
So give me 2 things. Give me 2 reasons why you should review your credit report. I gave you guys 1 at least. So.
It's good so that like when you like if you have to take like things, or if you have to like pay for something like a house or like a car, you would know like off the bat how much you have in your credit score. And
good. So you know your actual maybe your credit score, so you can know your credit score. Okay, good. And what else?
And so that it is what's the other one? So that you can
and what if something is wrong on your credit report? What is something that maybe your parents did that you didn't do, or somebody else did that you didn't do, right? So you can report that information. All right. So anything that's on your credit report that you didn't do, you're able to report and get it removed off of your credit report if you can prove that you didn't do it, of course. All right. And then lastly, Mr. Mustafa, can you read your last one for us, please?
Daddy.
Can you obtain a free copy of your credit report?
Can you give us the answer for that one? Did you catch what he said at the end there?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so it's a website called www.annualcreditreport.com. You're able to get 1 free credit report once a year. All right, so annualcreditreport.com.
I have a question.
Yep.
When do they start recording your credit score?
You said your credit score?
Yeah.
As literally as soon as you take any piece of credit out, as soon as any piece of credit goes on your name, that's when your credit report starts. So for instance, let's say you turn 18 and get your first credit card, or you turn 18 and get your first I don't know, a cable bill in your name, or
how about investing, like Robinhood and stuff?
So that doesn't report to a credit. So yes and no, right? And
I can't hear you. It did it at the worst possible time.
Can't hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? We can't hear you.
And we'll talk. Say it again. Hold on. Let me hold on 1 second, guys. Let me get my son 1 second. So yeah, Umar, did you hear my my answer for that?
No, I didn't. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was saying that a normal investment account does not report to the three credit bureaus, the three main
Oh.
credit bureaus. But a Robinhood account is slightly different because a Robinhood account, when you open up that investment account, they also offer you a kind of like a bank account along with the side of it. That does, say it again.
I said,
Yeah, and that bank account does have a credit portion as well that does report to the credit bureau. So, and we'll talk about Robinhood when we get to investing. But yeah, Robinhood is unique in that way, in that they give you an investment account, but they also give you a card that you can use as well. So it's unique.
I have a question. Does this apply to debit cards as well?
No, so it does not apply to debit cards at all. So you can open up a bank account, and that doesn't have an effect. It has to actually be a credit card or a credit account. So not just a credit card. Credit card is one type of credit account, but there are other type of credit accounts as well. So let's say you took out a student loan when you went to college, or you wanted to buy a car and you took out a loan when you bought a car or a house, or there are a number of different types of
I can't hear you.
Is it just us? Or?
Is it just us? I can't hear you.
Say it again.
I couldn't hear you.
Really?
Yeah, you keep muting or going off, Brother Hamza.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. Dang, I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay. If I ever stop, can you guys let me know that I'm not coming in so I can repeat what I said, please? Did I come in broken again?
No problem. I got it.
Oh, wait, thank you. All right. So we talked a little bit about a credit report. You learned a little about a credit report, and we're going to kind of dive in a little deeper on the credit report. So I want you guys to go ahead and click on this website here. Go ahead and click on that link, and I want you to take a look at, these are 8 different types of companies that check your credit report. So I want to know why you may need credit. What's the outside just buying a house, right, or getting a car loan. So if you scroll down, the first one are credit card companies, right? And we know this to be true because, well, in order for you to get a credit card, they check your credit, right? So they want to make sure that you have good credit to give you a credit. Now, the crazy part about it is this, right? So let's say you've never had any credit before and you want to get a credit card. They're not going to offer you very much money on your credit card. So they may offer you $200 or $300. Your first credit card is not going to be very much, right? So you open up a credit card the first time, they're going to give you a little bit of money just to see how you do with it. So here's a $200 credit card or a $300 credit card. Let's see how you manage it. Let's see if you overspend. Let's see if you go over your limit. Let's see if you're able to manage it well. If you're able to manage it well, we'll increase that limit more and more. You know, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $20,000 credit card, right? You can have that. Now, the other part about having a credit card or credit in general is the worse your credit, the more they charge you. So again, I'm going to repeat that. The worse your credit, the more they charge you. So if your credit is bad, they charge you more money to borrow that money. Hold on one second. Really? Okay, good. The more the worse your credit is, the more they charge you to borrow, which is weird because if my credit is bad, it's probably because I don't have a lot of money. And now you're going to charge me more to borrow that money. Now, the better your credit is, let's say you have really good credit, they basically give you the money for free. All right. The interest that they're going to charge you is very, very minimal. They're going to charge you very little. So the better you are with your credit, the cheaper it is to borrow money. All right. The worst.
Did you just say like interest? Because I thought interest was haram or whatnot. So I don't know if you're supposed to be doing that.
So say that one more time. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Like interest.
Yep.
Is that halal?
No, it is not. So that's a good. So there are different credit companies now that do exist that don't offer interest, that do not charge interest, that that are halal credit loaners. So there aren't very many of them, but there are some, and I can point you in that direction as well for those companies. All right, but a standard credit card, they're going to charge you interest. Standard, Western credit company is going to charge you interest, but it's not.
Just to chime in real quick, and then to Brother Hamzat's point, there are few and far in between those companies that might charge you interest free, that are halal. But again, it also goes back to your credit history, your credit scores, and things like that. You have to have excellent credit history for them to even consider you. So all this kind of ties in as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Absolutely. So again, the worse your credit is, the more you're going to be charged to borrow money. The better your credit is, the less you're going to be charged money. The number two are insurance companies. All right. Can somebody read that little block under insurance companies for me? Actually, I'll have Mr. Kamaro. Can you read what it says under insurance companies for us?
Okay. The Fair Credit Reporting Act also allows credit reporting companies to release your credit report in association with offering insurance coverage or setting insurance premium charges, says the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. While federal law allows insurers to pre-screen you for offers, it also allows you the ability to opt out of pre-screening.
So essentially, this kind of boils down to the same thing, right? The amount of money you pay on your insurance can be affected by how good or how bad your credit is, right? So let's say you want to get insurance for your car, right? They look at your credit report. That's one of the things that they consider. Obviously, where you live is going to be a big factor as well, because that'll determine how likely your car is to get broken in, or how likely you are to get into an accident, all these different things. But the worse off your credit is, the more they charge you to cover you, either for car insurance, housing, all different kinds of insurances that you may seek to get. All right. Number three, employers. All right. So your credit affects your job as well. All right. And I'll tell you firsthand, when I was working for the government, this is a big factor for us, right? So I used to work for, I mentioned this to you guys, but I used to work for ICE, right? Homeland Security, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. And one of the things is that when we're going through the interview processes, they check your credit. And the reason they do that is if you have bad credit and you have a TS, which I had at the time, a top secret clearance. If you have bad credit and a top secret clearance, they look at you as a potential person that an enemy could flip, right? Because you have bad credit. So that means that you're in need of money, right? You're in need of money to pay off loans or pay off money that you owe. So if you're in need of money to pay off loans and money that you owe, somebody who's a foreign intelligence organization could easily get to you and say, hey, look, we have some money for you to take care of, this loan and that loan and pay off this thing. So they're not going to want to hire you because you're more susceptible to foreign government interference, right? That's just one type of employer. That's the government that we're talking about here. But employers do look at your credit report to see if you're worth hiring or not. All right. Telecommunication companies, and we talk about this all the time. So phone, TV, internet. You can't get I know people right now who can't get cable service because they owe money, or they can't get a cell phone service in their name because, well, they owe money or their credit is bad. So they have to ask other people to do it for them, other people to open up a phone line for them, or internet service, or cable service in their name because their credit is bad. Same thing with utilities, and that's electricity, gas. Of course, they're going to look at your credit. They want to know, if we put an electrical line in this person's name and they have to pay at the end of every month, are they actually going to pay? right? If we open this account and we say their bill is $200, are they actually going to pay us every month, right? So they definitely look at your credit, all right? And we talked about this a second ago, but government agencies and courts also look at your insurance. Landlord. So in order to find housing, go ahead. Somebody have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. So do you give them this information, like of your credit score and all that, or can you just find it online somewhere?
No, so you have to give people permission to run your credit report. Yeah. So in order for you to apply for anything, that's one of the questions. That's one of the things they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you for permission to run it. If you don't give them permission, then well, you're not going to be able to either get the job or get the apartment or get the house or whatever the case may be. That's just part of the whole deal. All right. And landlords, again, if you're looking for an apartment or if you're looking to rent somewhere, they're going to check your credit. They're going to check your credit. I know plenty of people who have been denied houses that they wanted, or even renting like apartments. I know people who couldn't get apartment because their credit was poor. And then last but not least, assisted living facilities and nursing homes. So when you get older or you get to this point, even if you're trying to do it for somebody else, it's one of those things. They check your credit because this is the same as an apartment complex, right? Assisted living home, you're living somewhere, you're gonna have to pay monthly with assisted living, and if your credit is bad, then you're not gonna be able to join in on this assisted living. All right, so the credit is kind of pervasive throughout your life. There's all kind of different areas in your life that your credit score is going to affect, from your job to where you live to getting insurance to how much you pay for other things, how much you pay for credit, how much you pay for that car, right? If you want to buy a car, I can get a car for $5,000, but if my credit is bad, it's going to cost me $7,000, right? Because the insurance, what's the word I'm looking for? The interest rate is going to be much higher, right? So the worse off you are with credit, the more you're going to pay in the long run, and the harder it is going to be for you to navigate the world and get the things that you want to get. Anybody have any questions before we move on there? All right, so you guys can. I want to ask you guys to go ahead and read this. Ajibola, can you actually read this for us, please? Your credit score and what you need to know. Can you read this top portion for us?
Your credit report is a snapshot of your financial life. Anyone from potential employers to lenders could review it, and the information it contains determines your credit score. When you understand how to read your credit report and how to monitor it, you'll be better equipped to handle your finances.
Thank you. All right, and I'll read the bottom part. The three major credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those are the big three. They collect information from public records and companies you do business with and use that information to create your report, and that report has 4 sections. Now, we're going to go over those 4 sections now. Mr. Mustafa, can you read our 4 sections for us, please?
Personal information, your name, current and past addresses, social security number, and date of birth. Credit history, all your open and closed credit accounts and your track record for repaying them. Public records, any public records related to your finances, such as property, what's that word?
Liens
or bankruptcies. Any non-financial public records you may have, like speeding tickets, won't be here. Credit inquiries. Everyone who's checked your credit in the past 2 years, landlords, employers, lenders, and more.
All right, very good. So there's 3 parts, right? I mean, there's 4 parts, obviously, right? Your personal information is going to be one thing that affects your credit report. Like I told you guys before, where you live, where you've lived in the past, right? Your date of birth, your age is going to be an important factor of your credit report, and where you live and where you've lived is going to be an important factor in your credit report. Now, the other 3 major things, number 1 is credit history. So that is of the things that you've already borrowed, the money that you've already borrowed, how well have you done with it? Have you paid it on time, or have you paid them late? Yeah, what your track record is for paying them, right? Any closed or open accounts. So it could be something that you're currently paying or something that you had in the past, all right? That's your credit history. Then public records are other things outside of bills and things you had to pay monthly. Public records are maybe you were sued in court and you have a civil case against you that you owe $10,000 on. That's a public record that's going to be on your credit report as well, that you owe $10,000 to this person. All right. Anything related to finances, such as property liens or bankruptcies, maybe your house, and you declared bankruptcy. Right. That's bankruptcy is something that people do to clear any money that they owe, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But that'll be on your account as well. And then credit inquiries. This is basically any time somebody looks into you to see what your credit is like. The more times this happens, the worse it is for you. All right. The way they look at it is, well, you're seeking. Go ahead. Question.
Yeah, how's that bad?
And I'll explain. So basically, they look at it as kind of as if you're being desperate. So I'll explain what that means, right? So let's say Mr. Mustafa is trying to get a credit card, and he applied to Capital One, and Capital One says no. Then next week he applies to Bank of America. Bank of America says no. Then next week he applies to Visa, and Visa says no. The next week he applies to another place, and they say no. So anybody viewing your credit report says, dang, he has 4 different inquiries this last month, meaning he's trying really hard to get credit and everybody's denying him. We're not going to accept. We're not going to give him credit, right? It's looked at as bad. The more times that somebody's looking into your credit means that you're seeking to get more and more credit. The way you improve your credit is by not needing it. It's the weirdest thing. But if you can show that you don't need money, is when they want to give you money. If you look as if you need money, it's very bad, and you're less likely to get it. All right. So, and I say if you have a credit card and it's a $300 balance, and if you've used all $300 of it, or even if you use $290 of it, and you have $10 left on the card to use, that's a very bad thing, right? That means that you are maxing out and that you need money, right? Credit people or people seeking to give you credit are less likely to let you borrow it because of that. If you have a $300 balance and you've used none of it, then they're more likely to give you more of it, all right? The more you show that you don't need money, the more likely they are to give you the money, all right? Does that make sense? I know it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense, right? Anybody have any questions before we move on? All right, great. All right, let's get somebody to go ahead and read this one. Mr. Mustafa, can you read the top part for us, please?
It's not the same as your credit score. Ha 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 ha. Really funny.
Go ahead. Read that top part.
It's not the same as your credit score.
Yeah, I mean the first paragraph. You can read the first paragraph.
Remember, your credit report is a history of your accounts and payments. Your credit score is separate but related. It's a number generated from the results of your credit report. Lenders use it to decide whether to lend to you and on what terms. Credit scores can range from as low as 250 to as high as 900, though some credit score providers may use a narrower range. For example, the most common FICO. Credit score range is 300 through 850. The higher the number, the better your credit.
All right, very good. So most people you'll see 300 to 850. That's where your credit score range is. All right. Obviously, the higher the better. All right. So as you guys, or when you guys pull your credit report, understand that 850 is where you typically max off. There's some people that will get above 850. I've seen it. But same thing, you can go below 300 to as low as 250, but typically 300 to 850 is what you're going to see. All right. Your credit report does not actually include your credit score. So just as the gentleman said in the video earlier, your credit score is not on your credit report. Your credit report simply is all the things that you've done throughout your history. The actual score, however, it comes from that report, but is separate. All right. but it does inform it, right? So the credit score is not on your credit report, but your credit report does inform the score. You might be able to get your credit score for free from your financial institution or credit card user, or you may have to pay for it. So my credit card, they give it to me for free. So I have Capital One, and Capital One, they have what is it called? I can't remember what it's called right now. But basically, they every month they'll give me my credit report and let me know if it's up bad, if it's if it's down, whatever the case may be, and what I need to do to change it. So it's kind of an awesome program. All right.
I had a quick question.
Go ahead.
So could you, like, let's say you get your credit report, could you like average that to your credit score, or how do they like find out your credit score?
So I'll tell you. So we're actually that's an exercise that we're gonna do next class. But we're actually gonna no worries. We're actually gonna calculate the credit score. So I'm gonna show you how that's done. All right. Mm-hmm. How your FICO score is calculated. We'll talk about that. All right. Go ahead. Can you go ahead and read this for us then, Mohammed?
Your credit report may contain mistakes. 0 in your credit history, especially the subsection called adverse accounts. It can show potentially negative items like the past due credit account or the debt that was sent to the collections, which can hurt your credit.
So pause right there. Let me just make sure I give you guys what some of these terms are, right? Adverse accounts are just negative things that impact your credit score negatively. So those things that are on your credit report that are negative things are called adverse accounts. All right. They're going to show any debt that you owe or past due money that you owe. Let's say you have student loan and you're supposed to be paying $150 a month and you haven't paid in 2 months. That's going to show up on your credit report. And eventually, if you don't pay something for enough months in a row, it gets sent to collections. And I'm going to explain what that means. Collections is basically, how do I explain it? So let's imagine you guys open this $300 credit account, right? And I borrowed you $300. So you owe me $300. So I say, hey, Muhammad, you have my $300 this month, and you don't pay me. And the next month I say, Muhammad, you owe me $300. Can I get some of it? And you say, I don't have it. And the next month, I ask you for it again, and you say you don't have it. Eventually, I'm gonna say he's not paying me back, right? So now I'm gonna send your credit that you owe me, or the money that you owe me, to collections. And what does that mean? I'm gonna pay, or essentially I'm paying them, but you owe me $300. I'm gonna send that $300 over to somebody else. I'm gonna say, hey, look, maybe Mr. Mustafa. Hey, Mr. Mustafa, Muhammad owes me $300. I'm gonna sell you the $300 that he owes me for $200. So now Mr. Mustafa pays me $200 to get the $300 from you. All right. So Mr. Mustafa gives me $200, and I say, you know what? My hands are clean. I don't get my $300 back, but at least I got $200 of it back because Mr. Mustafa gave me $200 back. Now, Mr. Mustafa's job now is to try to get $300 from you. If he gets $300 from you, he ends up making $100, right? So I lose $100. He gains $100, but we're both happy because, well, I couldn't get the money from you. He was able to get the money from you. He made money from it. I didn't lose as much as I thought I was going to do from it. So that's what collections is. When somebody sells off your credit account to somebody else and they try to get the money from you. And it keeps happening over and over. So maybe I sold it to Mr. Mustafa for $200. Mr. Mustafa tries to collect it from you. He can't get it from you. Then he sells it to somebody else for $100. Right. So now that last person, he only paid $100 for your $300 account, and whatever he can get above $100, he makes money on it. Right. So he gets you. He calls you up and says, "Look, man, you Mr. Muhammad, you owe $300. I'm gonna let you settle this account for $150." Now he made $50 on it because he only paid $100 for it. Right. And that's how collections work. They keep selling off they'll sell off your credit to somebody else, or how much you owe to somebody else, and it gets cut smaller and smaller each time. But they'll never tell you that. They're going to try to collect the maximum amount from you because, well, that's their job. That's how they make money. But they're willing to settle for much less on that. And we'll talk about a little bit later about whether you should pay something off, whether you should not pay something off eventually. But we'll talk about that actually next class.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is this halal? Can like Muslims do this, like collection stuff, or no?
No, I don't know anybody who's ever not paid. So I do know people who borrowed from halal lenders, right? But I don't know anybody who's never not paid. So I don't know how they deal with somebody not paying their accounts, to be quite honest with you. I've never seen it. That's some information I'd have to find out. I can find out for you and get that for you. I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, nothing. It was just.
Yeah, so I'll find out. I'll actually find out and find out what they do. And I can let you know.
I can chime in real quick.
Okay, please.
There certainly are people who will not pay their bills. It's wrong. As Muslims, we should not do that. However, it comes back to bite you. That means you're basically frozen in terms of being able to get future credit from anyone because they will have your information. Remember, whenever you apply for these things, you have your social security number, and all they have to do is run that against the information that they have on hand. So if someone has defaulted on their bills, credit card or other utilities, whatever, there's a record of it. It doesn't go away. Like it takes 7 to 10 years for it to kind of reboot or however you want to see it. But it's there for 7 to 10 years. So, but yeah, to answer your question, there are Muslims, unfortunately, of people who would not pay their bills. It doesn't make it right.
And will they report that to collections, or how do they go about trying to collect that from you?
Who's doing the collecting? I was thinking just general credit card companies and stuff like that.
No, so let's say you go to a halal lender, right? And you don't pay what you owe to that halal lender.
Oh, whether or not halal lenders go to them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would hope they don't, because basically the person is perpetually being chased.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would hope they wouldn't, but this becomes a very gray area for us as Muslims. We are going to give you guys the basic information, but please discuss that with your parents, with your imam, with whomever it is you confide. And I appreciate us having just having an understanding of how the system works. And then it's up to you to now look into it. Okay, what's Islamic and what's not Islamic about this? What is it that I should stay away from, and what can I take away from this? But generally speaking, people will tell you like the whole system in America is not halal and this and that. And it's
Absolutely.
True. It's not. There's riba riba meaning interest in every single aspect of what is dealt in. Buying a house, buying a car, buying this. People do try their best to go around it in ways that they don't have to pay interest, but it's not the easiest way. It's not the easiest thing to do in America. So, and that's just the fact.
Yeah. So, and thank you for the question. I'm actually gonna look into that because I've never heard of anybody that I know who borrowed from halal lenders who didn't, who had an issue of not paying. So I don't know if they go to collections. I don't know what happens, and I will find. That's a good question. So I can find out, and I'll definitely before next class I'll be able to let you know. Inshallah.
Yeah, but it's also to your point again, what we originally said. Those halal lenders typically would not lend to someone who has a terrible or really bad report, credit history. So typically they're dealing with people who have very good credit history, who are likely to pay their debts. Right. So yeah, that's a way for them to like prevent themselves from even having to go to collections. Just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that's yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like in COVID-19, a lot of people are getting laid off. So, there could be a lot of those like around, like a lot of like Muslims that have been laid off from work probably because of
absolutely.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
So
And even and moreover, in the main credit arena, they have given a lot of people this whole year. If you have had issues because of layoffs, because of COVID, then they're deferring your payments till after you're able to start paying again. So yeah, I mean, agree to every, there's a unique situation happening right now. So yeah, but I'm curious myself, so I'll definitely look a little bit more into that. Thank you for that.
I have a question. It's
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
like how does the system work? Is it between like people or is it between companies? Like so say a
Companies.
person- so they go to another company to try to get money from you?
Yeah, so
Like
I'll try to explain that again. So let's say, let's imagine we're companies, right? Me and you, Mr. Mustafa, are companies, and Muhammad is a borrower, right? So Muhammad comes to me. Let's say I'm Visa. Muhammad comes to Visa and says, Visa, can I open up a credit card with you? And I say, you know what? You don't have credit history, so I'm going to give you a $300 credit card. So Muhammad has a credit card with me, Visa, right? And you are, you, Mr. Mustafa, are what we call a collection agency. Your job is to chase people down to get money. All right, that's your sole job. You're a credit collection agency. So you're the person who calls people every day and hounds them every day to try to get them to pay money. So you just keep calling and calling and calling, sending mail to their house. So your job is just to irritate people enough, essentially, to get them to pay the money back that they owe. Right. So I'm Visa. Muhammad stops paying me. I haven't got my $300 back from him. So then I come to you, the collection agency, and say, hey, Mr. Mustafa collection agency, I'm gonna sell you Mr. Muhammad's $300 account for only $200. I'm gonna sell you his account for $200. So you pay me $200, and hopefully you can get $300 back from him. Does that make sense for you, Mr. Mustafa?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it works with collection agencies, and their job is simply to say, hey, I know I can get the money from him because I'm just gonna hound him every day until he pays back. Visa doesn't have the time to continue to deal with Muhammad, so I'm just gonna leave him alone. I'm gonna sell it to somebody else, and hopefully you guys can collect the money from him. All right, so that's how it works. All right. So let me read the rest of this part, right, with in terms of mistakes on your account. All right. You may find errors in this section that you want to correct. It's a good idea to reach out first to the creditor and then to the credit agencies themselves. So if I see something on my credit report that's wrong, I'm going to contact that company first and say, hey, Visa, you guys say I owe you $300. I've never even had a Visa account. Like, why do you say I owe $300? And then if you can't get it worked out with them, then you can call TransUnion and Equifax and Experian directly and say, hey, that $300 on my credit report, that wasn't me. And then they'll do an investigation and they'll either remove it from your account or it'll stay on there. But you can get it removed if it wasn't you. You can prove that it wasn't you. All right. If they're unresponsive, report to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is that's another layer. That's the last layer you can go to. If the agencies aren't responsive and they're not dealing with it, then you report to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and that's the last stop where it goes. All right. If the error you find looks fraudulent, for example, you see a mortgage for a house that you don't own, you need to act quickly. Contact the credit bureaus and ask them to put a fraud alert on your account. You'll also want to file a report with either the police or the Federal Trade Commission, depending on what it is. All right. So again, if you see something on your credit report that doesn't belong there, you just need to ring the alarm very quickly and say, hey, this is not me. I didn't do this. As soon as possible. The quicker you get it done, obviously, the quicker it can be removed from your account, and the faster they can determine if it was you or not. Can I do that? Let me see if I can. All right, so I'm gonna have you guys answer a couple questions real quick. This is basically a map, and I'm gonna click on it here. Go ahead and click on the screen. All right, so this is a map of the United States, and it shows you on-time payers by state, the percentage of people that pay on time by state. You see the national average of people that pay on time. So 78.5% of people nationally pay their bills on time, generally. And then you can see by state how well they do. So Washington is very good. 85% of the people in Washington pay bills on time. 85.4% in Minnesota, so on and so forth. Here's the worst. Mississippi is the worst. A lot of people in Mississippi, only 68.5% of people pay on time, right? And you guys can see Maryland, Virginia, DC. You guys can see by area how well people can be trusted with credit, how well they pay off their stuff.
I'm actually surprised that Texas is like this low and not California, because like.
And what makes you say that? I'm just curious.
California is like more expensive place to live, right? They have like Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's fair. So I think part of it, that's a good point, right? So I think the idea that somewhere being more expensive makes it harder to pay on time. But I think part of it is also your morals and values. I think the idea, part of it goes into how serious you take the idea of borrowing something and the seriousness of saying, hey, I have to pay it back. I think that's just maybe that's a small part of it. Maybe that's just me. But I think the idea of, hey, I borrowed this money, I need to make sure my morals tell me I need to make sure that I paid this thing off, right? And paying it off. So it's interesting that the Rust Belt is what this is called, kind of this southern area of the United States. People aren't paying things back. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's based on
How about poverty rates?
Poverty rates. I was about to say poverty rates also could have an effect, because if you look at the Sun Belt, this is kind of the in terms of lower what's the word I'm looking for here? Anyway,
low income.
Low income. Thank you. Low income areas is kind of this area here. Mississippi being the worst of them, to be honest with you. It's lowest in education as well. Mississippi is dead last in terms of education based on states. Go ahead, Mohammed.
If you because this is just for 2019. If you go all the way back to 2010, it's like the whole Southern is they're all late.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't that after the financial thing?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yeah, after the financial crisis.
Yes.
So yeah, that's interesting fact. That's an interesting idea, right? So we had Nevada that was pretty bad. Mississippi stayed low, and Georgia as well. That's interesting. That's a good point. And then over here, out in the middle of nowhere, Delaware. That's interesting. Let me see how it's changed over time. Cali, yeah. And then things started getting better over time as the economy.
Definitely the housing bubble.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell as the economy started to improve, you can see that things started to improve. So I want you guys to answer a couple questions. I'm going to change the slide. I want you guys to keep this map open, and you guys are going to answer a couple questions based on this map that you guys are looking at here, all right? So I put 5 questions on the board. I want you guys to go ahead and answer those 5 questions for me real quick. I'll go ahead and put 10 minutes on the clock. You guys don't need that much there, but. And the directions are right there, but I'll read the directions for you. They're your history of on-time payments is one of the most important aspects of your entire credit report. It's also important to remember that records stay on your report for up to a decade. Remember, so you guys for 7 to 10 years. Use this interactive map to learn about how Americans are delinquent in their payments. Then answer the questions below. All right. And number 1 is what % of adults nationally were current on all credit payments in the last year? And I kind of already gave you that answer there on the map, but I'm gonna go ahead and hold my mouth, let you guys. I'll give you guys 6 minutes. Shouldn't take that long to work on it. And we'll talk about it. Go ahead. Sadiq, go ahead. You want a drink like lemon juice? Okay, no problem. I'll get you one, buddy. You go lay down, okay? I know, right?
No.
Oh, I just saw the comments in the chat. It's funny. Yes. All right, so actually, let me come to Mr. Mustafa. Mr. Mustafa, what'd you get for us for number one? Oh. Thank you, guys. All right, this is what percent of adults nationally were current on all credit payments in the last year. I like what you guys wrote. Mr. Mustafa and Umar, you guys wrote 78. Very good. About seven. What was it? 78 point. To be exact, 78
I
point.
think it's 78.3.
78.3 to be exact. Very good. And it says number two says your friend sees your answer to number one. 78.3 people, and assumes that each of these people has a high credit report. Why is your friend wrong about that? So he's assuming
I
that.
can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Am I coming in broken? Hello?
I can't hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. So number two says your friends see your answer to number one and assumes that the 78.3% of people has a high credit report. Why is your friend wrong about that? Why is your friend wrong to assume that 78.3% of people have a high credit report? Somebody help me out there.
Just because they missed the payment, that doesn't necessarily mean they have high credit reports.
Very good. Just because they make a payment doesn't mean they have high credit reports, because other things go into your credit report, like where you live. Maybe you make all your payments, but you owe $1 million to somebody in a civil suit or in a civil suit, right? So all of those things will affect your credit. So just because you pay on time, that's only one part of your credit history, not all of it. Number three. How does your state's on-time payment record compare to the national rate? So how does Maryland compare to the national rate, guys? Is it higher or lower?
It's like on average.
About on average to the national rate, right? So that's good, bad, indifferent, maybe not that big of a deal, right? Number four, find your county within your state. How does your county's rate compare to the national average? So we're in Maryland and we live in PG County here. So we have Montgomery. Where's PG? Hey, right there we go. So PG County and Montgomery County, as you can see, are very different. PG County has a 83.7 rate, which is higher than Maryland and the national average. PG County, however, has a much lower rate, which is 65.4%. which is lower than the average Maryland rate and much lower than the national average as well. So that is PG County is pretty bad, just like Baltimore City is pretty bad. PG County, Baltimore City, and Maryland are the two worst in terms of percentage of people who pay on time. All right, and then number five, if you look at the state's shading on the map, it seems on-time payment rates are somewhat clumped geographically. What might cause this clumping? And we kind of talked about it a little bit, like education was part of it. We talked about the housing bubble being another part of how people in certain areas were affected more than others. And then lastly, based on prior learning, name two reasons that paying your credit card or loan bill late has serious consequences. and of course, your ability to get a house, your ability to get credit cards, your ability to get a car, your ability to do so many other things. All right, thank you guys. All right, so we do have one last activity, and you guys will spend the last 12 minutes here working on this last activity. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time next class to finish it up as well. I'm going to put you guys into groups. All right, there is a document, a worksheet in Google Classroom that you guys are going to open up. All right, many of the policies and practices you've been learning about exist because of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. You're going to open the assignment on Google Classroom in order to complete this activity. All right, you're going to use the internet to find credible answers to the following questions on the Fair Credit Report Act. All right, for each answer, be sure to cite your sources with the name of the website you use. And I'm going to put you guys into groups to do this so you guys can split the work up, okay? Let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to break you guys into breakout rooms real quick. And I'm going to put you guys into groups. I'm going to do it manually. Yusuf, Muhammad, and Sule, you guys are going to work together since you guys are already in a group, essentially. Everybody else, I'll pair you guys up. All right, assalamu alaikum, guys. Thank you guys for working so hard. I love the discussions I was hearing in some of those groups. Good conversation around credit and around building credit and just answering some of the questions in general. Now, next class is going to be January, let me make sure I have it right, January 10th. All right, so I'm going to see you guys January 10th. We're going to switch up the conversation a little bit in the month of January. We're going to pause on our financial literacy, and we'll pick back up in on financial literacy in February. We're going to pause in the month of January to kind of shift pace a little bit and talk about some other really important things in our life, inshallah. And then January 10th, we're also going to do kind of an award ceremony for everybody who's been participating. So we're going to be giving out awards for you guys on January 10th. So make sure you guys are there. Make sure you guys tell everybody else to make sure that they're there as well. And we have some superlatives and things that we're going to give out as well. So it'll be a lot of fun. And thank you guys for participating today.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear.
Can't hear
We're getting
you.
the audio, Brother Hamzat. We're getting the audio from you.
Hello?
We can
Now
hear
we
you.
can hear
Now, now we hear you.
Oh, you couldn't hear me before?
No.
Oh gosh, I was saying thank you guys so much for today. Very interactive. A lot of great conversation I heard going on. Really appreciate you guys being engaged and kind of asking questions and doing the whole nine. The month of January, we're gonna switch gears a little bit, switch pace, and we're gonna kind of talk about some other important topics in our life, specifically mental health. January 10th, and on that day as well, we're gonna do an award ceremony for you guys as well. For those guys that are participating and been here, we're going to kind of give out superlative awards on superlatives and some other things as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So inshallah, I'll see you guys January 10th. Looking forward to it. Does anybody have any questions or anything to add before we break out?
No.
Okay. All right, inshallah. All right, guys. Thank you guys for attending today. Does anybody have anything to add? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, all right, thanks everyone.
All right, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
Waalaikumsalam.